In the desolate streets of Burlington, Vermont, where autumn leaves danced with the remnants of civilization, Dr. Marcus Reynolds clutched his research notes while sprinting through the abandoned university campus. The outbreak had begun 3 days ago, spreading like wildfire through the small college town. As the lead virologist at Burlington Medical Center, he had witnessed the transformation firsthand, the aggressive virus that turned ordinary citizens into mindless, flesh-craving monsters. The setting sun cast long shadows across the crumbling infrastructure, where overturned vehicles and shattered windows told tales of panic and chaos. Through the eerie silence, Marcus could hear the distant moans of the infected, their shuffling footsteps echoing through empty corridors. His destination was clear: the underground research facility where his colleague, Dr. Emma Thompson, had been working on a potential cure. The facility, hidden beneath the old library building, held their last hope. As he rounded the corner, Marcus nearly collided with Jessica Parker, a former military specialist who had been providing security at the medical center. Her tactical gear was splattered with dark stains, and her breathing was heavy. "They're everywhere," she whispered, gripping her rifle tightly. "The eastern sector has fallen. We lost contact with the National Guard an hour ago." Together, they formed an unlikely alliance, the scientist and the soldier, both driven by the desperate need to survive and find a solution. The infected were evolving, becoming more aggressive and coordinated with each passing hour. As they made their way through the campus, they encountered Michael Anderson, a local police officer who had managed to save a group of students by barricading them in the science building. His face was etched with determination and exhaustion, his uniform torn and bloodied from countless encounters with the infected. The small group moved silently through the shadows, avoiding the main streets where hordes of zombies congregated. The sound of breaking glass and distant screams created a haunting symphony of destruction. They witnessed the horror of their transformed neighbors, people they once knew, now reduced to mindless creatures driven by an insatiable hunger. Among their group was Rebecca Wilson, a graduate student who had been working with Dr. Thompson on the initial stages of the vaccine research. As they approached the library, the gravity of their situation became apparent. Dozens of infected blocked their path, their grotesque forms illuminated by the dying sunlight. Jessica took point, her military training evident in every calculated move. "We need a distraction," she whispered, pulling out a flare from her tactical vest. Michael positioned himself on their flank, his police-issued shotgun at the ready. The tension in the air was palpable as they prepared to make their final push toward the facility. Marcus's mind raced with possibilities, the research they had conducted, the patterns they had observed, and the potential salvation that lay within reach. The virus had shown signs of manipulation, suggesting it wasn't a natural occurrence. Someone or something had engineered this nightmare, and the answers lay in Dr. Thompson's research. The group's dynamics shifted as they realized the weight of their mission. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for humanity's future. The plan was set in motion as Jessica launched the flare, its bright red light arcing through the darkening sky. The infected, drawn to the sudden burst of light and sound, began moving away from the library entrance. The group seized their opportunity, moving swiftly through the shadows. But their progress was halted by an unexpected sight. A new form of infected, larger and more aggressive than the others, emerged from the library's broken windows. Its mutations were extreme, with hardened skin and enhanced strength, suggesting the virus was capable of creating specialized forms. As the first part of their harrowing journey drew to a close, the group found themselves trapped between the evolving threat and their destination. The underground facility, their beacon of hope, seemed further away than ever. The sound of the horde returning echoed through the streets, and the specialized infected creature let out a bone-chilling roar. Marcus clutched his research notes tighter, knowing that within those pages lay clues to understanding and potentially stopping this apocalyptic threat. The sun had finally set, plunging Burlington into darkness, and with it came the realization that their night of terror was just beginning. Their survival would depend not only on their individual skills but on their ability to work together against an enemy that was growing stronger and more intelligent with each passing moment. In the enveloping darkness that now cloaked Burlington, the group's hearts pounded like war drums as the specialized infected lunged forward with unnatural speed, its bulging muscles rippling under taut, discolored skin that seemed impervious to ordinary attacks. Jessica reacted first, her rifle barking sharp reports into the night, the bullets pinging off the creature's hardened exterior like stones against metal, barely slowing its advance. Michael, drawing on years of street-level instincts, pumped his shotgun and aimed for the legs, hoping to cripple it, while Marcus and Rebecca scrambled for cover behind a toppled statue in the library plaza, the scientist's mind whirling with frantic calculations about the virus's mutations. The beast roared again, a guttural sound that vibrated through the ground, drawing more of the regular infected from the shadows like moths to a flame, their milky eyes fixated on the living intruders. Jessica shouted orders, her voice steady despite the chaos, directing Michael to flank left while she provided suppressing fire, her military precision turning the plaza into a makeshift battlefield where flashes of muzzle light pierced the gloom. Rebecca, though not a fighter by trade, grabbed a loose metal pipe from the debris and swung it with surprising force when a stray infected got too close, her academic knowledge fueling a desperate resolve to protect the group and their mission. Marcus, peering from behind the statue, noticed patterns in the creature's movements. It wasn't just brute force, there was a cunning gleam in its eyes, as if the virus had granted it some twisted intelligence, coordinating the lesser infected like a pack leader. As the fight intensified, Michael's shotgun blasts finally found purchase, shattering one of the beast's knees and sending it crashing to the ground with a thunderous impact that shook nearby windows, but not before it swiped a massive claw at Jessica, tearing through her tactical vest and drawing a shallow gash across her arm. She gritted her teeth, ignoring the sting, and delivered a point-blank shot to its head, ending the immediate threat as its body slumped lifelessly, a pool of dark fluid spreading beneath it. The group didn't have time to celebrate, the horde was closing in, their moans growing into a deafening chorus, forcing a hasty retreat toward the library's side entrance, where Rebecca recalled a hidden service door from her late-night study sessions. They burst through, barricading it with whatever furniture they could drag, bookshelves, desks, and chairs, the wood splintering under the pounding fists of the pursuing infected. Descending into the dimly lit basement corridors, guided by emergency lights that flickered like dying stars, they caught their breath, the air thick with dust and the faint metallic tang of blood. Marcus examined Jessica's wound quickly, applying a makeshift bandage from his pack, whispering assurances that it wasn't deep enough for immediate infection risk, though the fear lingered in everyone's eyes. As they navigated the maze-like passages toward the underground facility, Michael scouted ahead, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, revealing scattered papers and overturned lab equipment that hinted at a hurried evacuation. Suddenly, a faint voice echoed from deeper within, "Is someone there?" And they froze, weapons raised, until Rebecca recognized it as Dr. Emma Thompson's, her mentor's tone laced with exhaustion and hope. Emerging into the fortified lab, they found Emma barricaded behind reinforced doors, her face pale but determined, surrounded by humming computers and vials of glowing serums. She embraced Rebecca briefly, then turned to Marcus with urgent eyes, explaining how she'd isolated a potential antigen but needed fresh samples from the evolved infected to refine it. The reunion was short-lived as alarms blared, security feeds showed the horde breaching the upper levels, their numbers swelling with more of those specialized variants, drawn perhaps by the lab's residual power hum. Jessica assessed the defenses, noting weak points in the ventilation shafts, while Michael coordinated with Emma to arm the group with experimental repellents, chemical sprays that mimicked the virus's pheromones to confuse the infected. Tension mounted as they heard the first thuds against the outer doors, the group forming a defensive line, each member drawing on their strengths, Marcus analyzing data feeds for patterns, Rebecca assisting Emma with serum preparations, Jessica and Michael readying for the inevitable breach. Whispers of strategy filled the air, luring the leaders into traps, using the lab's layout to their advantage, but doubt crept in when Emma revealed a chilling discovery: the virus showed signs of deliberate engineering, possibly from a rival lab in the city, hinting at human betrayal amid the apocalypse. As the doors began to buckle under the relentless assault, the group's resolve hardened, knowing this confrontation could be the turning point in their fight for survival. Jessica cracked a grim smile, reloading her rifle, while Michael checked his ammo, the air electric with anticipation. Marcus felt a surge of purpose, his notes now augmented by Emma's findings, piecing together a puzzle that might save them all. The infected's roars grew louder, shaking the foundations, and in that moment, the brave warriors steeled themselves for the epic clash ahead, their unity the only light in the encroaching darkness, as the night promised more trials and revelations in their desperate bid to turn the tide against the relentless enemy. The reinforced doors of the underground lab groaned under the relentless barrage, metal screeching like tortured souls as the horde's collective force threatened to shatter their fragile sanctuary, the air thick with the acrid scent of fear and chemical repellents that Emma had hastily distributed. Jessica positioned herself at the forefront, her rifle steady despite the burning gash on her arm, barking commands to Michael to cover the left flank while Rebecca and Marcus assisted Emma in fortifying the inner barriers with lab benches and heavy equipment carts, their movements frantic yet coordinated in the flickering red glow of emergency lights. The first breach came suddenly, a ventilation grate exploded inward, spewing forth a writhing mass of infected, their decayed fingers clawing at the air, eyes glowing with feral hunger in the dimness. Michael unleashed a volley from his shotgun, the blasts echoing like thunder in the confined space, shredding the initial intruders into ragged heaps that twitched on the cold tile floor, but more poured through, undeterred, their numbers seemingly endless as if the virus itself was summoning reinforcements from the shadows. Jessica switched to burst fire, conserving ammo while aiming for headshots, her military training turning each pull of the trigger into a precise act of defiance, but the specialized variants were among them now, hulking figures with armored hides and elongated limbs that allowed them to leap across the room with terrifying agility, one slamming into a computer console and sending sparks flying, disrupting the lab's power momentarily and plunging sections into total blackness. Rebecca, drawing on her quick thinking, grabbed a vial of experimental acid from Emma's workstation and hurled it at an approaching beast, the corrosive liquid eating through its tough exterior with a sizzling hiss, eliciting a pained screech that momentarily disorganized the pack. Marcus, his scientific mind racing, analyzed the chaos in real time, shouting observations to the group, the leaders are directing them. Take out the alphas first. As he spotted the subtle cues of coordination, the way the larger infected gestured with jerky motions, hurting the lesser ones like a twisted general. Emma worked feverishly at her terminal, her fingers flying over the keys to activate automated defenses, hidden turrets that whirred to life, spraying bursts of suppressant foam that slowed the infected, turning their advances into sluggish crawls, but the system was overloaded, circuits frying under the strain as more grates gave way overhead. In the midst of the fray, Michael took a brutal hit, a specialized infected's claw raking across his shoulder, sending him staggering back against a wall with a grunt of pain, blood seeping through his torn uniform, but he refused to fall, pumping his shotgun one-handed and blasting the attacker point-blank, its head erupting in a spray that coated the nearby equipment. Jessica covered him, dragging him to relative safety behind an overturned table, her own wound throbbing as she applied pressure to his injury, their eyes meeting in a silent vow of resilience amid the cacophony of roars and gunfire. The group fought with everything they had, Rebecca improvising weapons from lab tools, a Bunsen burner turned flamethrower that scorched a path through the horde, while Marcus used his knowledge to identify weak points, directing fire toward joints and eyes where the mutations were less pronounced. Emma's voice cut through the din, urgent and laced with breakthrough excitement. I need a sample from one of those alphas. It's key to the antigen. Prompting Jessica to nod grimly and lead a daring counterattack, weaving through the melee with Michael providing cover fire, her knife flashing as she closed in on a downed variant, slicing into its flesh to extract a vial of pulsating tissue that glowed unnaturally under the lab lights. But victory was fleeting. As they secured the sample and handed it to Emma, a massive tremor shook the facility, dust raining from the ceiling as something enormous battered the main doors from outside, suggesting an even more evolved threat had arrived, perhaps drawn by the chaos or the lab's signals. The group's ammunition dwindled, breaths coming in ragged gasps, sweat mixing with blood on their faces, yet their bond grew stronger in the crucible of battle, each member pushing beyond limits, Rebecca's intellect devising traps with electrical cables that electrocuted clusters of infected, Michael's unyielding grit holding the line, Jessica's leadership inspiring them all, Marcus's insights turning the tide, and Emma racing against time to process the sample. Alarms wailed louder, warning of structural collapse, and just as they repelled another wave, a chilling revelation emerged from Emma's scans. The virus's signature matched classified military projects, implying not just a rival lab but possible government involvement, a betrayal that hit like a gut punch, sowing seeds of distrust even as they fought side by side. The enormous entity outside let out a deafening bellow that vibrated through the walls, cracking concrete and forcing the group to consider evacuation, their hard-won sample clutched tightly as they plotted a desperate escape through the facility's rear tunnels, unaware that one among them might harbor secrets tied to the outbreak's origins. Hearts pounding, weapons reloaded with the last of their rounds, they braced for the next onslaught, the epic confrontation escalating into a nightmare of survival where every shadow hid potential doom, and the line between ally and enemy blurred in the haze of apocalypse, promising more harrowing trials as the night deepened and the infected's intelligence seemed to adapt to their every move. The rear tunnels of the underground facility stretched out like veins of forgotten earth, damp and claustrophobic, their concrete walls slick with condensation and echoing with the distant thuds of the massive entity still assaulting the lab's main entrance, each impact sending tremors that dislodged pebbles from the ceiling and heightened the group's already frayed nerves. Emma led the way, her flashlight beam jittering ahead as she clutched the precious sample vial, its contents swirling with an eerie luminescence that cast ghostly shadows on her determined face, while Marcus followed closely, his research notes tucked securely in his pack, his mind piecing together the military implications of the virus's design. Whispers of black ops and covert experiments that made him glance suspiciously at Jessica, whose military background now seemed like a potential liability in this web of betrayal. Jessica, sensing the shift in atmosphere, kept her rifle at the ready, her wounded arm bandaged but throbbing with every step, her eyes scanning the darkness for threats as she urged the group forward, her voice a low command, "Stay tight, no stragglers, we've got what we need, now we get out and find a way to mass-produce this antigen." Michael brought up the rear, his shoulder injury slowing him slightly but not diminishing his resolve, the shotgun in his hands a comforting weight as he covered their retreat, the pain sharpening his senses to every drip of water and scuttle of unseen vermin that could mask the approach of infected. Rebecca, sandwiched in the middle, used her knowledge of the campus layout to navigate the twisting passages, recalling from blueprints she'd studied that these tunnels connected to an old sewer system leading to the outskirts of Burlington, a potential path to safety if they could avoid the horrors that might lurk below. As they pressed on, the air grew heavier with the stench of decay, a foreboding sign that the infected had infiltrated these depths, and sure enough, a low growl reverberated from a side passage, prompting Jessica to signal a halt, her free hand raised in silent warning. From the gloom emerged a pack of infected, their forms twisted by the virus into agile hunters with elongated limbs and sharpened senses, adapted perhaps for the underground environment, their eyes reflecting the flashlight beams like predatory cats in the night. The group sprang into action without a word, Jessica firing controlled bursts that dropped the front-runners, their bodies crumpling with wet thuds against the tunnel floor, while Michael blasted away at those attempting to flank them, the shotgun's roar amplified in the confined space, deafening and disorienting. Rebecca, ever resourceful, spotted a rusted valve on the wall and twisted it open, unleashing a torrent of stagnant water that swept several infected off their feet, buying precious seconds as the group pushed past the skirmish, Marcus shouting encouragement and observations, "They're adapting to low light, aim for the eyes." His voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through him. Emma protected the sample fiercely, dodging a lunging infected with surprising agility for a lab-bound scientist, using a metal rod from her pack to bash its skull, the impact resounding like a gong in the tunnels. But the fight revealed fractures in their unity. As they caught their breath in a brief alcove, Michael's gaze hardened on Jessica, his police instincts flaring at the military virus link. "You knew about this? Some top-secret project gone wrong?" Jessica met his stare evenly, her tone defensive yet honest. "I was just a grunt. If there's dirt, it's higher up the chain, but right now, we focus on survival, not accusations." The tension simmered, unspoken doubts planting seeds of paranoia, especially when Marcus recalled a vague email from Emma about external funding sources that now seemed suspicious, though he pushed the thought aside as more growls echoed from ahead, signaling a larger ambush. Pressing forward, they encountered a flooded section where the water reached their knees, slowing their progress and masking the submerged threats, infected lurking beneath the surface, their hands grasping at ankles like drowned specters rising from the grave. Jessica waded in first, knife in hand, stabbing downward at the ripples that betrayed movement, her movements precise and lethal, while Michael used his shotgun to blast emerging heads, the water erupting in crimson sprays that mixed with the murk. Rebecca and Emma linked arms to steady each other, the sample vial held high above the flood, their progress a tense slog until a particularly vicious infected burst from the depths, tackling Marcus and dragging him under, his cries muffled by the water as panic gripped the group. Jessica dove in without hesitation, her strength pulling him free just as the creature's jaws snapped inches from his throat, Michael finishing it off with a submerged shot that sent shockwaves through the liquid. Gasping for air, Marcus emerged sputtering, his notes soaked but intact, gratitude in his eyes toward Jessica, momentarily easing the suspicion, though the incident left them all shaken and more vigilant. As they finally reached a ladder leading to the surface, faint moonlight filtering through a manhole cover above, the sounds of the horde grew distant, but a new peril loomed. Seismic rumble suggested the massive entity from the lab had broken through and was now pursuing them through parallel paths, its roars vibrating the tunnels like an earthquake. Climbing out into the cool night air of Burlington's outskirts, the group emerged into a wooded area dotted with abandoned cabins, their breaths visible in the chill, but safety was illusory. Silhouettes of infected dotted the treeline, and among them loomed the shadow of the colossal beast, its form a nightmarish evolution with multiple limbs and a hide like armored plating, eyes glowing with intelligent malice as it fixed on their position. Exhausted but unbroken, they dashed for the nearest cabin, barricading the door as the beast charged, its impact shaking the structure, forcing them to devise a hasty plan, using the antigen sample to create a localized weapon, perhaps, while fending off the assault. Whispers of strategy filled the cramped space, alliances tested by the earlier revelations, yet their shared peril forged a reluctant trust, the epic confrontation spilling into the wilderness where every rustle could be friend or foe, and the dawn promised either salvation or doom as the infected's adaptations pushed the boundaries of horror, leaving the warriors to wonder if humanity's greatest enemy was the virus itself or the secrets buried within their own ranks. The rickety cabin shuddered violently under the colossal beast's assault, its massive fists pounding against the wooden walls like battering rams, splintering planks and sending dust cascading from the rafters as the group inside scrambled to reinforce their defenses with whatever they could find, overturned tables, rusted tools, and stacks of moldy firewood that barely held against the onslaught. Emma clutched the antigen sample vial tightly, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination as she worked at a makeshift lab station on the cabin's dusty counter, using scavenged beakers and a portable burner from her pack to synthesize a rudimentary weaponized version of the serum, her hands steady despite the chaos, whispering to Rebecca, "If I can aerosolize this, it might disrupt their mutations. Buy us time to escape." Marcus hovered nearby, his soaked notes spread out under the dim glow of a lantern, cross-referencing data with Emma's findings, his suspicion lingering on Jessica as he murmured, "The military markers in the virus, it's too precise for an accident, someone orchestrated this," his voice laced with accusation that hung heavy in the air. Jessica, ignoring the undercurrent of distrust, focused on the immediate threat, peering through a cracked window at the beast's hulking silhouette, a grotesque amalgamation of fused infected bodies, towering over 10 feet with jagged bone protrusions and tendrils that whipped through the air, coordinating a ring of lesser infected that encircled the cabin like a living noose, their moans a symphony of impending doom. Michael, grimacing through the pain of his shoulder wound, loaded his last shells into the shotgun and took position at the door, his cop's resolve shining through as he growled, "We hold the line here, no one's getting through without a fight," his words bolstering the group even as the beast let out a earth-shaking roar that rattled the foundations and drew more infected from the treeline, their forms evolving before their eyes into swifter, more resilient variants. Rebecca, spotting a weakness in the cabin structure, rigged a trap with fishing line and cans from the pantry, creating a noisy alarm system that would alert them to breaches, her graduate ingenuity turning the humble shelter into a fortress of sorts, though doubt crept in when she caught Jessica exchanging a furtive glance with no one in particular, fueling the paranoia that had taken root. Suddenly, the beast charged again, its tendrils smashing through the window and wrapping around Jessica's leg, yanking her toward the opening with brutal force. She fired wildly, bullets ricocheting off its armored hide, but it was Michael who saved her, blasting the tendril at point-blank range, severing it in a spray of viscous fluid that burned like acid on the floorboards, allowing her to scramble back, gasping, "Thanks. That thing's learning our moves." The group retaliated with improvised fury. Marcus hurled a Molotov cocktail fashioned from lantern oil and rags, igniting a blaze that forced the beast back momentarily, flames licking at its flesh and illuminating the horror of its multiple fused faces, each twisted in eternal agony. Emma's work reached a critical point, the serum bubbling in a jury-rigged sprayer, and she tested it on a stray infected that clawed through a weakened wall, the mist causing it to convulse and regress, its mutations unraveling as it collapsed into a harmless heap, a spark of hope igniting in their eyes. "It works. But it's limited, we need more time to produce enough," she exclaimed, only for the beast to adapt, smashing the roof and raining debris down upon them, forcing a chaotic evasion as claws and tendrils probed the interior. In the melee, Rebecca was separated briefly, cornered by a pack of agile infected that leaped from the shadows, her screams piercing the night as she swung a fireplace poker with desperate swings, fending them off until Jessica dove in, knife flashing in lethal arcs, dispatching them with ruthless efficiency that bordered on unnatural. Raising Marcus's eyebrows. Was her prowess from training, or something more sinister tied to the virus's origins? Michael covered their reunion, his shotgun barking until it clicked empty, switching to a hatchet from the cabin's toolshed, hacking at encroaching limbs with grim determination, blood and sweat mingling on his brow. As the group regrouped around Emma's station, protecting her as she scaled up the serum production, a shocking revelation surfaced when Marcus decrypted a hidden file on Emma's portable drive, uncovered during the chaos, encrypted messages linking her to a shadowy military contact, suggesting she might have been complicit in the virus's release for research purposes, a betrayal that exploded into confrontation. "What is this, Emma? Were you part of this nightmare?" he demanded, the group freezing amid the ongoing assault, her face paling as she stammered, "It was funding, nothing more. I didn't know it would lead to this." Trust shattered like the cabin's walls, accusations flying even as the beast renewed its attack, breaching the door and flooding the interior with infected, forcing them into a frenzied defense where alliances teetered on the edge. Jessica took command, her voice cutting through the doubt. "Sort it out later, survive now." Leading a counteroffensive that pushed back the horde with the first batches of the aerosol serum, creating a temporary barrier of writhing, de-evolving bodies that blocked the entrance. Yet the colossal beast, undeterred, began to absorb the fallen infected, growing even larger and more formidable, its intelligence evident in how it targeted the serum station, tendrils snaking toward Emma with purposeful malice. Exhausted and divided, the group fought on, Michael's hatchet cleaving through foes, Rebecca's traps tripping up advances, Marcus's insights guiding their strikes, and Jessica's unyielding ferocity holding the line, but the revelation hung like a guillotine, sowing discord that the infected exploited with coordinated strikes. As dawn's first light pierced the trees, hinting at possible reinforcements or escape, the beast let out a triumphant bellow, shattering the remaining barriers and cornering them in the cabin's back room, the antigen their only hope amid the crumbling unity, the epic battle reaching a fever pitch where survival hinged not just on combating the external horrors but navigating the treacherous waters of human deception, leaving them teetering on the brink of annihilation or redemption as the confrontation intensified into uncharted territory of trust and terror. The back room of the crumbling cabin became a desperate last stand, its walls buckling inward as the colossal beast's tendrils slithered through widening cracks like serpents from the abyss, their barbed tips dripping with corrosive ichor that sizzled on the wooden floor, forcing the group to huddle around Emma's makeshift serum station while the air filled with the stench of burning timber and rotting flesh. Marcus, his face a mask of betrayal and fury, kept his eyes locked on Emma even as he swung a improvised club, a broken chair leg, at an encroaching tendril, the impact sending vibrations up his arm as he shouted over the din, "Funding? That's your excuse? People are dying because of this virus you helped create." Emma, tears streaking her dust-caked cheeks, worked frantically to load more aerosol canisters with the antigen, her voice breaking as she defended herself. It was supposed to be a bioweapon deterrent, not this apocalypse, I was tricked, just like everyone else." The accusation hung like a poison in the confined space, fracturing the group's fragile unity, with Rebecca stepping between them, her voice sharp and pleading, "We can't do this now. If we turn on each other, we're done. Look outside, that thing is evolving again." Indeed, through the shattered remnants of the wall, they could see the beast assimilating more infected into its mass, its body swelling to grotesque proportions, sprouting additional limbs that hammered at the cabin with rhythmic fury, each blow shaking loose beams from the ceiling and threatening to bury them alive. Jessica, ever the pragmatist, shoved aside the drama and sprayed a burst of the serum mist toward the nearest breach, watching with grim satisfaction as the tendrils recoiled, the absorbed infected bodies convulsing and detaching in writhing heaps that regressed to harmless, quivering forms, but the beast adapted swiftly, its core mass shielding itself with layers of armored flesh, roaring in defiance as it directed waves of lesser infected to swarm the openings. Michael, his hatchet slick with gore, hacked relentlessly at the intruders pouring in, his wounded shoulder screaming in protest with every swing, but his determination burned bright. "She's right, fight now, interrogate later," he grunted, cleaving through a pair of agile zombies that leaped at him with unnatural grace, their claws raking the air inches from his face before he dispatched them with brutal efficiency. The room devolved into a whirlwind of chaos, furniture splintering under the assault as the group formed a tight circle around Emma, who finally completed another batch of serum, handing canisters to Rebecca and Marcus with urgent instructions: "Aim for the joints, it disrupts the fusion points." Rebecca, her academic poise giving way to raw survival instinct, climbed atop a precarious stack of crates and unleashed a wide spray, the mist enveloping a section of the beast's extended limb and causing it to fray apart, eliciting a pained bellow that vibrated through the floorboards and momentarily stunned the horde, giving Jessica an opening to charge forward with her rifle, firing precise shots into the exposed vulnerabilities, bullets punching through softened tissue and drawing dark, viscous blood that pooled on the ground. But the victory was short-lived. The beast retaliated by smashing through the entire side wall, flooding the room with dawn's pale light and a fresh tide of infected, their forms now showing signs of collective intelligence, moving in synchronized patterns that herded the group toward a corner, as if the virus had evolved a hive mind under the colossal entity's command. In the frenzy, Marcus was knocked off his feet by a surging zombie, its jaws snapping perilously close to his throat, only for Emma to save him with a point-blank serum blast that melted the creature into a puddle, her action a silent plea for redemption that softened his glare, though doubt lingered in his eyes. Jessica, spotting a potential escape through the newly created breach, yelled, "This way, we make a run for the woods, the serums are ticket out," but as they prepared to bolt, Michael uncovered a hidden communicator in Emma's pack during the scramble, a device buzzing with incoming signals from an unknown source, its screen flashing coordinates for a nearby extraction point, deepening the mystery and reigniting accusations. "What the hell is this? You're signaling them?" Emma's face crumpled in genuine shock. "I don't know how that got there, it must be planted." The revelation sparked a heated exchange amid the battle, punches of words flying as fast as the physical strikes against the infected, with Rebecca advocating for caution. "If it's a trap, we avoid it, if it's help, we need it, but we stick together." Seizing the moment of the beast's brief disorientation from the serum attacks, the group burst from the cabin's ruins, sprinting into the misty morning woods with the colossal entity in pursuit, its thunderous footsteps uprooting trees and shaking the earth, while packs of evolved infected flanked them from the underbrush, forcing evasive maneuvers through dense foliage where vines and roots became both obstacles and weapons. Jessica led the charge, her military instincts guiding them toward higher ground, spraying serum to clear paths and slow pursuers, while Michael covered the rear, his hatchet a whirlwind that felled any that got too close, his breaths ragged but unyielding. Marcus, clutching the communicator, debated activating it, the temptation of potential allies warring with the fear of betrayal, as Emma insisted on her innocence, her knowledge of the virus proving invaluable in predicting the beast's next moves. Rebecca, scouting ahead, discovered an old ranger station perched on a hill, its sturdy build offering a new defensive position, and they barricaded themselves inside just as the beast caught up, its massive form slamming against the reinforced doors, the structure holding for now but creaking under the strain. Inside, tensions boiled over into a makeshift trial, accusations and defenses clashing as the device continued to ping, revealing messages that hinted at a rogue faction within the military offering aid, but laced with codes that could mean salvation or ambush. As the beast adapted once more, incorporating environmental elements like fallen logs into its arsenal, hurling them like projectiles that shattered windows and forced the group to dodge flying debris, they realized their survival depended on resolving the internal rift, trusting Emma could unlock the antigen's full potential, but doubting her might doom them all. With the sun climbing higher, casting long shadows through the besieged station, the epic confrontation evolved into a test of loyalty amid relentless horror, the warriors' bonds fraying under suspicion while the infected horde pressed in, their adaptations turning the wilderness into a deadly arena where every decision could lead to triumph or tragic end, leaving them on the precipice of a daring gambit that would either unite them against the ultimate threat or shatter their alliance forever. In the face of the encroaching dawn of despair, the ranger station's reinforced doors bowed inward with each thunderous impact from the colossal beast outside, its evolved form now a nightmarish behemoth woven with uprooted trees and jagged rocks embedded in its fleshy armor, the structure's log walls splintering like matchsticks as the group inside grappled with the communicator's insistent pings, its screen illuminating their tense faces in the dim morning light filtering through barricaded windows. Marcus, his hands trembling with a mix of rage and uncertainty, held the device aloft, his voice cutting through the cacophony of roars and crashes. "This thing's leading us straight into a trap, Emma. If you're innocent, prove it. Decode these messages now." Emma, backed into a corner both literally and figuratively by the advancing cracks in the walls, snatched the communicator with desperate resolve, her fingers dancing over the interface as she muttered, "It's an old encryption I recognize from the funding proposals. Give me a minute," her eyes narrowing in concentration while Rebecca stood guard nearby, wielding a scavenged hunting rifle from the station's armory, her shots cracking through shattered glass to pick off flanking infected that scrambled up the hill like rabid wolves, their bodies twisting mid-leap with adaptive mutations that made them dodge erratically. Jessica, positioned at the main door, reinforced it with metal shelves dragged from the supply room, her muscles straining as she fired bursts from her rifle at the beast's probing tendrils that snaked through gaps, the serum canisters at her belt depleting rapidly as she sprayed mist to repel the assaults, her pragmatic mind urging unity. Whatever the truth, we need her brain to beat this thing. Accusations can wait till we're not about to be pulp. Michael, his hatchet replaced by a fire axe found in the station, swung it with ferocious arcs to sever any limbs that breached the perimeter, his shoulder wound seeping fresh blood but fueling his adrenaline-fueled defiance, grunting as he cleaved through a tendril that nearly ensnared Rebecca, the severed piece writhing on the floor before dissolving under a quick serum dose. As Emma worked, the beast outside adapted ingeniously, using its incorporated debris to launch volleys of stones that pelted the roof like hail, forcing the group to dodge falling tiles and exposing vulnerabilities in their defense, while packs of intelligent infected coordinated climbs up the exterior walls, their claws scraping against wood in a rhythmic assault that echoed like impending doom. Suddenly, Emma's face lit up with revelation. It's not a trap, it's a distress signal from a survivor cell in the Old Mill District, ex-military like you, Jessica. They're offering evac with a chopper if we can hold out till noon, but they warn of a virus mastermind still active, pulling strings from a hidden bunker. The disclosure hung in the air like a lifeline, easing some suspicions as Marcus's expression softened, realizing the device's presence might indeed be coincidental or planted by an external force, though doubt lingered in his muttered, "We'll verify it on the move. No blind trust." Seizing the momentum, Jessica proposed a bold counterstrike. "We use the remaining serum to target the beast's core. Rebecca, you and Marcus provide covering fire from the upper loft. Michael and I will flank it outside. Emma, rig a larger dispersal from the station's water tank." The plan ignited a spark of cohesion, the group moving with renewed purpose amid the escalating chaos, Rebecca ascending the creaky stairs to the loft and unleashing precise rifle shots that chipped away at the beast's armored hide, drawing its attention upward while Marcus analyzed its movements, shouting, "It's favoring its left side, hit there." Down below, Jessica and Michael burst through a side exit, dodging lunging infected and spraying serum to create a path, their coordinated assault a testament to their warrior spirits as Jessica climbed a nearby tree for elevation, raining bullets and mist down on the beast's exposed underbelly, causing chunks of its fused mass to slough off in agonizing separation. Michael, on the ground, hacked at its rooted legs with the axe, each blow chipping away at the woody reinforcements, the beast bellowing in fury as it swung wildly, uprooting more earth and forcing him to roll aside, his quick reflexes saving him from being crushed. Emma, inside, jury-rigged the station's rainwater system with the antigen, flooding the exterior with a diluted mist that enveloped the horde, causing widespread regression, infected convulsing and reverting to stumbling husks, their hive coordination fracturing as the beast's influence waned. Yet the victory came at a cost. A stray tendril whipped through the loft window, striking Rebecca and sending her tumbling down the stairs with a cry, her rifle clattering away, blood trickling from a gash on her forehead as Marcus rushed to her side, applying pressure and urging her to stay conscious. "Hang on, we've almost got it." The beast, sensing weakness, redoubled its efforts, smashing through the front wall and flooding the interior with its bulk, forcing a frantic melee where Jessica and Michael fought their way back inside, their weapons blazing in a symphony of defiance against the encroaching horror. In the heart of the storm, Emma activated the full dispersal, the mist erupting like a geyser and coating the beast's core, triggering a chain reaction that began unraveling its massive form, limbs detaching and infected components peeling away in a grotesque display of reversal, but not before it lashed out one final time, its dying throes collapsing part of the ceiling and pinning Michael under debris, his shouts of pain piercing the air as the group converged to free him. With the beast finally crumbling into a quivering mass outside, the immediate threat abated, but the communicator buzzed urgently with coordinates for the Mill District rendezvous, the chopper's approach audible in the distance, promising rescue yet laced with the uncertainty of who awaited them, allies or the very architects of the outbreak. Panting and battered, the group helped Rebecca and Michael to their feet, their bonds reforged in the fire of battle, though shadows of doubt remained as they emerged into the sunlight, the wilderness now eerily quiet save for the fading moans of regressing infected, their epic journey hurtling toward a climactic convergence where truths would be unveiled and the true battle for humanity's survival would be decided in the ruins of Burlington, teetering on the edge of hope and hidden treachery. As the rotors thumped closer, heralding either salvation or the final betrayal. The thumping rotors of the approaching chopper grew louder, slicing through the morning haze over Burlington's ruined mill district, where derelict factories loomed like skeletal guardians amid overgrown weeds and scattered debris, the group's weary footsteps crunching on gravel as they hurried toward the designated rendezvous point, their bodies aching from wounds and exhaustion but propelled by a fragile thread of hope woven from their hard-fought victories. Marcus supported Rebecca, her forehead bandaged with strips from his shirt, her steps unsteady but her spirit unbroken as she murmured, "If this is real help, we can finally turn the tide," mass-produced the antigen, while Michael limped alongside, his axe slung over his good shoulder, eyes scanning the shadows for any lingering infected, the pain in his body a constant reminder of their narrow escapes. Jessica led the pack, rifle at the ready, her tactical mind assessing the terrain, rusted silos and collapsed warehouses offering potential cover or ambush spots, as Emma trailed behind, the communicator in her hand now a beacon of tentative trust, its final message confirming the survivor cell's intentions, extraction and alliance against the virus's creators. But as they crested a hill overlooking the old textile mill, suspicion reignited when distant figures emerged from the fog, not just rescuers, but armed personnel in hazmat suits flanking a central man in a pristine lab coat, his face stern and familiar to Emma, who gasped, "Dr. Harlan Vance, he was the lead on the funding project, he's the mastermind." The revelation exploded like a grenade, the group diving for cover behind a toppled truck as Vance's voice boomed over a megaphone, amplified by the mill's echoing chambers, "Emma, you fool, the virus was meant to evolve humanity, not destroy it. Hand over the antigen, and join the new order." Betrayal confirmed, the chopper hovered overhead, but instead of lowering a ladder, it unleashed suppressing fire from mounted guns, not at the group but at swarms of infected that Vance summoned with a remote device, revealing his control over the horde like a puppeteer, the creatures surging from hidden pens in the mill, their forms the pinnacle of evolution, swift, armored, and telepathically linked to his commands. Chaos erupted as the group realized the chopper was Vance's, hijacked for his twisted agenda, forcing them into a final, desperate stand amid the industrial ruins, Jessica barking orders, "Flank and disrupt, take out his device first." Michael, drawing on his last reserves, charged a group of elite infected guarding Vance, his axe swinging in wide arcs that severed limbs and disrupted their formations, the beasts retaliating with coordinated strikes that nearly overwhelmed him until Rebecca, from her vantage, sniped at their weak points with a scavenged pistol, her aim true despite her injury, buying him precious seconds. Marcus and Emma worked in tandem, using the remaining serum canisters to create a dispersal bomb from mill scraps, pipes and pressurized tanks, their scientific synergy overriding past doubts as Emma confessed fully, "I was blind to his extremism, help me end this," her words mending the rift as they rigged the device under fire, infected claws scraping against metal barriers while Vance laughed maniacally, directing his minions to encircle them. Jessica, weaving through the fray like a shadow, scaled a rusted catwalk for a high-ground assault, her rifle picking off Vance's guards one by one, bullets finding gaps in their suits, but a specialized infected leaped at her, its tendrils wrapping around the structure and shaking it violently, forcing her to cling for life as she emptied her clip into its core, the creature plummeting with a screech that echoed through the district. Below, the battle intensified, Michael grappling with a brute variant that pinned him against a wall, his axe embedded in its side as he wrestled free, aided by Rebecca's covering shots that felled it, their teamwork a beacon of resilience. Marcus activated the dispersal bomb, hurling it toward Vance's position, the explosion releasing a massive cloud of antigen mist that enveloped the horde, causing a cascade of regressions, evolved forms unraveling into harmless states, their links to Vance severing as he screamed in fury, his device sparking and failing under the chemical onslaught. Seizing the moment, Jessica dropped from the catwalk, knife in hand, and closed on Vance, disarming him in a blur of motion and pinning him to the ground, her voice cold, "Your new order ends here." But Vance, in a final act of malice, triggered a self-destruct on his remote, summoning one last colossal infected from the mill's depths, a fusion of machinery and flesh, gears grinding within its body as it lumbered forward, threatening to crush them all. The group united in their ultimate confrontation, Emma guiding them to exploit its mechanical weaknesses with targeted serum sprays, Marcus analyzing its patterns to direct strikes, Rebecca and Michael assaulting its legs with improvised explosives from the mill's remnants, and Jessica scaling its back to jam a canister into its core vent, the mist triggering an internal meltdown that sent it collapsing in a heap of sparking wreckage and dissolving tissue. With Vance subdued and the horde neutralized, true rescue arrived, another chopper, this one from genuine survivors alerted by the commotion, lowering ropes to extract them as the mill district fell silent, the sun breaking fully through the clouds to illuminate their triumph. Bound and gagged, Vance was taken into custody by the rescuers, his secrets poised to unravel the conspiracy, while the group, aboard the chopper soaring over the reclaimed city, shared weary smiles, their antigen formula now in safe hands for global distribution. Marcus clasped Emma's hand in forgiveness, Rebecca leaned on Michael's shoulder in relief, and Jessica gazed at the horizon, knowing their brave stand had forged legends of survival, turning the tide against the infected scourge and restoring hope to a world on the brink, their epic saga of warriors versus relentless enemies concluding not in despair, but in the enduring light of unity and human perseverance as Burlington faded below, a testament to their unyielding spirit.